William Murray, October 5th, 2010, editorial. Go.
Last week I reported to you that the CISOs of some of the firms that have been penetrated in the Aurora investigations, have proven to be penetrated, reported that credentials for privileged insiders and executives have been targeted as intermediate targets. The implication of that is that these credentials are being replayed and reused over and over and over again. I questioned them about whether or not they thought that this was an indication that we should be moving in the direction of strong authentication. Now, many firms have been doing strong authentication for 20 years, but it is far from being the standard. Most everybody relies upon passwords, strong or otherwise. What is strong authentication? Well, strong authentication is a system in which we use to authenticate a user at least two independent kinds of evidence, at least one of which is resistant to replay. What makes credentials valuable to attackers is the fact that they get to use them over and over again. Now, some of us time limit those passwords and say, gee, Mr. User, since your password could get compromised, you ought to change it periodically, just in case. Well, what's the optimum period in which to change it? Well, should we change it every week? We know the users are going to resist that. Change it more often than a week. How about if we changed it every time we used it? And that, of course, is the concept of the one-time password. One-time passwords have been in use for 20 years. Most of us know about secure ID. Security people have often resisted the use of strong authentication on the basis that they believed it to be expensive. Secure ID tokens could cost as much as $50 and only be useful for 2 or 3 years. There's always the concern about how we provision them, how we get them into the right hands. And it's moving in the wrong direction. Oh dear. It's moving in the wrong direction in an era in which we want to have users self-administering their user IDs and passwords as much as we can. There are, however, a number of new techniques that are in the marketplace today that overcome some of those hurdles, where the user can in fact self-provision, where the user might not have to carry an extra device in order to be able to access your systems. These include cell phones. Many of the banks now, for sensitive customers, for large transaction customers, and indeed the banks ought to be doing it for all businesses and government agencies, they should be providing strong authentication in one form or another. One form for doing this is at the time that the user attempts to log on to his banking application, the bank will send him a one-time password as a text message to the cell phone that they have, whose number they have associated with him in their records. He then is prompted to enter that number from his cell phone to confirm his identity. This is strong authentication out of band, and it works pretty well. Another method is one that you can look up on the internet and check out for yourself, called VIP access. VIP access uses applications installed on the end user's cell phone. Let me see if I can show it to you. This is a one-time password. At the end of about 30 seconds, it'll change. I use it with PayPal. I got it by going to the Apple App Store and downloading it. It didn't cost me anything. In fact, not only do I have one on my iPhone, I have another one on my iPad. It comes from VeriSign, and VeriSign doesn't charge me for the app. However, it charges PayPal microcents every time I use the app. So every time I log on to PayPal, I'm prompted for my user ID, my password, for the name of the token that I'm going to use, and then for the 6-digit password that comes out of that token. I can have as many as 5 tokens registered. Some of them might be secure ID tokens. Some might be VeriSign tokens. Some might be special tokens that PayPal uses for itself. And then, of course, my iPhone and my iPad. There are workarounds in case I should not have either one of these devices with me, that I can still get to my accounts if I need to, by using other kinds of strong authentication. One of the kinds of strong authentication that we have used in the past is challenge response. When I set up my account, I may answer a number of questions about myself, the answers to which I can remember for a long period of time. In the event that I try to log on, and for any other reason that I'm suspect, say like I left my token, they will challenge me with some of those questions. They don't have to be the same ones every time, and that's going to tend to resist replay. So they're all, and incidentally, these things scale very well. If you want to try out VIP access from VeriSign, you can download the software. You don't even have to contract with them in advance. You can just download the software, install it, for example, in your web application, and begin using it. They're going to charge you according to your use, but it scales very well. If you just want to try it out, it's not going to cost you very much to try it out. It scales regardless of the size of your user population. You can use it with some users and not with others. So the privileged users, the highly capable users, excuse me, the ones that are going to be targets for criminal enterprises or nation states, are the ones where we want to be sure that we use this kind of strong authentication. Try it out. Examine it on the web for yourself, and I think you'll find that it's much more practical today than it was 20 years ago when we first started to use it. It relies in large part upon the fact that we've got the World Wide Web and the Internet, and therefore we can not have to run the servers ourselves. We can rely upon servers that are in the cloud, and we don't have to run them ourselves. We have to run the software ourselves. We have to have the tokens ourselves, but we don't have to run the servers. We don't have to provision. They become self-provisioning, just like modern passwords are self-provisioning. So please try this out. I think it's urgent that we use strong authentication in many more places than we're using it today.